Welcome to another Black Excellence Club podcast. Today I have a guest named Keishon. I'm gonna let him introduce himself and then we'll go from there.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Keishon, currently Senior Life and Pension Sales Advisor at Friesenbrook. And a lot of people in the community do know me as the Master Key through my music. But yeah, happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. So let's talk a bit about your background and leading up to your job at Friesenbrook, Meyer.
Well, it actually started a long time ago. So I've not really been to like college or school or anything like that. I started at very entry level in England in a call center,
Okay.
answering calls and selling car insurance. And from doing that, my knowledge of insurance grew, and I actually found a love for doing it. And I became good at speaking to people on the phones, helping them with the issues and problems, customer service, claims, renewals, and all sorts,
Right.
and just built the knowledge around insurance.
Okay.
And in doing that, I worked my way up from the call center to ambassador, team leader roles, eventually started doing call quality, so
Okay.
judging the calls in the whole of the business, just for quality things. And as a result, coming back to Bermuda, having that experience, being able to apply for an insurance role, I was the man for the job.
Nice. That's interesting that you was able, it's not interesting. It's good that you're able to move up and you found a passion for it at the same time. Because
Definitely.
if you didn't find a passion for it, you probably not be where you are
Exactly.
now. You know?
Definitely.
So that's pretty cool. So when you just moved to the UK to live, or
Yeah. So at 16, my mother took myself and my two sisters to the UK. Pretty much just went for it. She had some money saved up. We went, got a house rented, we went to school, just doing the traditional things that you would do as a teenager.
Right.
And once I had finished school, I was on my own. So, I had to find work, find a job, find my way. And as a result, I got into the insurance industry.
Okay.
So, started like that.
All right. So where did you first get your job in Bermuda?
At Colonial.
Colonial.
No, it was a little bit before that. No, I have a very good sales background. So I started at Diamonds International in Dockyard, and I was selling jewelry for them, and did pretty well because I'm good at selling things. And then once I applied for Colonial, I think the February after that summer, so the summer 2019, I was at Diamonds International. And then 2020, right before the pandemic, I applied to Colonial and got the job there.
Okay.
So that's where I started with the life insurance and the investment side of things in Bermuda.
Okay. And how long were you at Colonial before you switched over to Friesenbrook?
About 2.5 years. 2.5 years. And it's a funny story because when I got to Colonial, it was right before the pandemic.
Right.
So I got in, I'm learning insurance, life insurance, investing. I'm getting hungry to do it, and then bang, we're in lockdown.
Right.
And all of a sudden, because of the nature of life insurance and how it's linked to mortality with COVID and the uncertainty, it was a whole year where we couldn't actually sell. So
Really?
at that point, I'm just pretty much taking in information, learning, having
That's
meetings still,
interesting.
helping other departments and whatnot. But it was a little bit tough. But
I'm surprised they weren't just selling it to take people's money.
No,
or
but
is it because you can't?
It's funny you say that because COVID-19 actually woke up a lot of people when it comes to how short life is. So the demand for life insurance went through the roof.
Right.
But the fact that we couldn't sell it because of the policy discrepancies around COVID, and if somebody had died due to COVID, we couldn't really sell the insurance because it was a little bit difficult. But it was like a positive and a negative. So now on the flip side of it, I feel like people are slowly starting to grasp the concept of how important certain things are.
Okay.
So it's been a blessing and a curse, I guess.
Okay. So, and when did you switch over?
I switched to Friesenbrook this year, May.
Okay.
This year, May. And in all honesty, it was definitely a good switch for me. I like to be that loyal person. I would have stayed at CG for maybe a few little things if they were different. But I think the switch was the best thing for me. It took a lot. It took long, hard thinking, and making sure I was making the right choice.
Right.
But it's worked out for the better for sure.
Okay. And you said your senior life insurance
And pension
and
sales.
pension sales.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What is the importance of life insurance?
Well, that's down to the individual. But one question I do like to ask, especially breadwinners in particular, when you look at the structure of a household or the structure of a family, the breadwinner is the most important person when it comes to longevity of everyone's future.
Right.
So when you think about when that person passes away, or if that person passes away, the question you have to ask is like, how long would it be before what you've left behind is in financial jeopardy without your income? And it's really something to think about, because for some people it would be immediate, especially if your wife is a stay-at-home mom or whatnot. If you're a single parent and it's just you financially taking care of your kids,
Right.
how long would it be before they're stuck? You may have some savings that could last a little while, but more often than not, it's not going to be long before they need help.
That's true. That is a good question, because a lot of people, and that I feel like that comes down to how people manage the money as well.
1,000%.
Because if you don't manage your money, you're not going to be able to prepare. Because a lot of people literally live paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly.
So if they can't, so that's a really good question to ask
Exactly.
people. So what would you say is the most common answer when you ask that?
The most common answer is a lot of people think, so it takes a little time to think, but a lot of people wouldn't last more than 6 months.
Right.
When you really think about it.
Yeah, most definitely.
Like and the idea is look, it takes roughly $250,000 or $500,000 to raise one child from 0 to 18 before you can say, hey, you're on your own. And at that point, more often than not, they're not even on their own then. Right. They still got maybe school, college, and other things that they want to do that you're going to have to finance.
Right.
So is really something to put into perspective. So I ask people, how much do you think you need? And you got the $100,000 to $500,000 and all sorts. But if something happened to you tomorrow, that's never gonna be enough.
Yeah.
So it's really something that you have to really, really think about.
Okay. So how do you give someone's life a value?
It's a good question. So what we do is called a needs analysis.
Okay.
So what we would do is, say for example, we would add up all of your liabilities. So if someone has a house, has a car, has 3 kids, you would add up all of the liabilities. So the cost of the mortgage that's left and for how long it's going to be a liability. How old your kids are. How long is it going to be before they're no longer dependents? Do they have goals to go to school? If so, what are the goals and how much it's going to cost?
Right.
And you have to factor all of these things into play. Because, say maybe for a 5-year school term in college, maybe $200,000 if you want to get to a decent school per kid.
Yeah.
So if you got 3, that's $600,000 just for education.
Right.
If you have $1 million mortgage, which is pretty, I would say medium in Bermuda, you can get $500K to $1 million in mortgage. That needs to be covered for your 30 years, however long the mortgage is. So we're talking about a lot of liabilities that people have. $1 million is only $30K a year for 30 years.
Exactly.
That's not a lot of money.
Not at all.
If you was on $30K a year for the next 30 years, you'd be sick. You know what I mean? Thinking, man, I need more.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's $1 million. So it's important to really put it all into perspective.
Okay. And you guys have like a spreadsheet type thing that you enter this stuff into, or you just manually do?
No, I would talk to the person. There's no one size that fits all for it.
Okay.
So I talk to the person, figure out what it is they have going on, what they're worried about, and then we look at the cover that way.
Do you think the younger you are, the better it is when you get your life insurance?
1,000%. 1,000%. I think the only struggle with young people, and it's not a bad thing, is that they love things that help them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of young people are starting to love money and want to make money for themselves and what's in it for me, how much is going to be in my pocket.
Right.
But the earlier you start to plan for what you leave behind, the better.
Right.
The premiums are cheaper and you don't have to worry about expensive things when you're starting to get sick and you say, hey, look, I need this now.
Right.
You're not paying too much at that stage.
Because someone was telling me about life insurance. I'm 27 now. I think they were telling me about it when I was like 20. So I started looking into it. I was like, you really value my life at 300,000? Forget this.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm young now, but I have a whole future ahead of me. And you're saying you only want to value my life at 300,000? I'm just like, I can make 300,000 in a year.
Exactly.
So that's what turned me off from it. I think I can't remember which company I went to. It was like, forget this. You ain't taking my money every month for 300,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it depends on the person, and that's why it's important to do a needs analysis, and also to be speaking to the right people when it comes to this thing. You know, it also depends on your goals. So one thing that people will need is something for last expenses. You know, a funeral will only cost 10,000-15,000, but everyone will create some form of liability in their life. So you do need something.
Right.
So whole of life is something that lasts for life, but you don't have to go too huge on it because it's permanent and it's going to be for last expenses more often than not.
Right.
Where you get the real benefit is in the term insurance. So the term insurance, it's a little bit of a struggle to wrap your head around.
Okay.
Because if you outlive it, it disappears and it doesn't build the cash value. See? Exactly. But the amount of cover that you can get and the value for money that it brings is really like out of this world.
Okay.
You know, so that's how you maximize. So the best strategy would be to have something in whole of life that you're happy with, that you can afford, and then you maximize the cover umbrella with the term for the duration you feel like your money's going to be needed. And then that's how you do it. So that by the time the term drops off, if you do outlive it, it's no longer a necessity because, one, you've paid your mortgage off, your kids are now through college, through school, and you no longer have the debt or the liability to need that big umbrella.
Okay. So tell me a little more about that.
The term?
Yeah.
So, term insurance, the best example that I could use as to how it would be beneficial. Let's say today I purchase a home for $1 million. I purchase a property for $1 million and it's a 30-year mortgage. So me as the breadwinner, I am liable to pay this mortgage for the next 30 years or else the house is not mine until I pay off this mortgage. Now, if something was to happen to me whilst paying the mortgage off, my children or my wife may not be in a position to continue to make mortgage payments. So then they would be forced to, one, sell the home or lose it. You know, come up with something or some way of, they'll be stuck, basically. So the idea is, during that 30-year term, I had the cover. If something happens to me, the benefit activates, pays the mortgage off. If it's halfway through, lucky for them, they got an extra bit on top because I've paid a little bit of it, and they don't have to lose the property.
Okay.
You know, if I outlive it for the 30 years and the term drops off, at that point, I've paid the mortgage off. So the house is now an asset as opposed to a liability, and it's nobody's responsibility to make mortgage payments.
Right.
So it's a good balance.
So with that, like when you say you outlive it, so what happens to all the money that you've been putting into this plan?
It's gone.
It's just gone.
It's gone. It's like a car insurance policy.
Okay.
So term insurance is like a car insurance policy. You have it while you need it. If you don't crash your car, you don't get money back.
Okay.
But a question I do ask people, just to get a better understanding, is do you drive or ride?
I ride.
You ride. Okay, with bikes it's a little different because bikes are not as expensive. But let's say you purchased a $50,000 or $100,000 car. Would you insure it if it wasn't mandatory to?
Probably.
Why?
In case anything happens.
Exactly.
So it's
because
basically
if
it's
something
like
happens to the
insurance,
car,
basically.
you don't want to be in a position of having to pay $50,000 or $100,000 out of pocket for the vehicle.
Okay.
You know, that's what insurance is.
So term insurance is mainly towards houses, or it could be towards anything?
It's towards anything.
Okay. It's
just the type of policy. So it doesn't build cash value, and it's only for a specified term. But the value for money is astronomical.
Okay.
It's cheap. Cheap.
Okay.
So you have it while you need it, and hopefully you no longer need it when it drops off, if it drops off.
Okay, so it's basically like paying your health insurance every month. You don't want to use it, but you pay for it in case you need it.
Yeah,
so it's
definitely.
In my head, it's the same thing.
Well, kind of. It's just a different thing that you're insuring.
Yeah.
So yeah, health.
But I mean, the way that you pay into it is basically the same.
Yeah.
You have it there in case you need it. If you don't need it, then
exactly,
it's money spent.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. But that's why I'm a big fan of whole of life. You know, so I tell people, yes, it's more expensive, but if you can, you know, get a whole of life policy for what you can get it for, because one, it builds cash values as a safety net, and with Friesenbrook, you also get dividends with your whole of life insurance. So let's say you signed up for $100,000 benefit. By the time you hit retirement, it could be $200,000, $250,000 or more, because you've left it in place and the investment feature has allowed it to build and compound in interest. But that policy is a little bit more expensive, but it's fine because the cash values that you are accumulating, you can, one, borrow against should you need funds from yourself. The interest to pay back in your dividends are far less than what a bank would charge you if you learned from the bank. So it's a better structure when it comes to being in control financially.
So the dividends, do you get that or just stays into that policy until the policy matures?
Either or.
Okay.
You can access it if you needed funds, or you can leave it and let it build and let it compound, and it'd be better for long term.
Okay.
But it's entirely up to you.
That's
Yeah.
it's interesting. Got me
Definitely.
thinking. I mean, I think my first experience is like, you know what, forget it. I'll come back to it when the time is
You're not
right.
the only one.
So it's just like, okay, now that we're talking about it a little more, I think I'll probably have more understanding by the time our conversation is done.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll probably go ahead and, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Because future planning is all that I'm doing right now. It's just like I don't know exactly where I'm going to be, but I'd rather have policies in place. Like,
yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that I would say about the whole of life policies is there is a lot of information online, especially amongst, you know, Americans who are financially literate. And a lot of the stuff that they're talking about really relates to America. So there's a little bit of a, I would say, misinformation thing when it comes to the whole of life policies. So locally, we don't do index universal life policies like what they talk about in America. But with the dividends that we have at Friesenbrook, you could get the closest thing to it.
Okay.
You know, it's really, really a beautiful thing.
All right. So why is there a disconnect in our community when it comes to succession planning?
Honestly, either a lack of information or misinformation. So majority of the people I talk to, when I ask them, the first question I ask is, what do you know about life insurance?
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, someone's going to say, hey, man, you know, if I die, I guess my people get some money. And it's way more to it than that.
Right.
So my thing is to encourage people to come speak to somebody who knows what they're talking about, who could really dig into what your issues are and find a solution to your issues. And then you can make an informed decision on whether it's for you or not, as opposed to listening to people who may have heard about a bad experience.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
A lot of things that I think, especially locally, is there are a lot of, I would say, people in the older community who have had a bad experience with insurance companies locally. So it has a bad taste in their mouth about what's happening. So they would have heard about this one experience where a company went bankrupt and took everyone's money. And then now all of a sudden, nobody gets the benefit from insurance because it's a negative aura out in the public. But my thing is, look, go figure it out for yourself. There's no one size that's going to fit all, and you don't want to miss out on an amazing opportunity just because something went wrong with one person.
Right.
You know?
That's good. Shit, just had a question. This keeps happening to me. I keep forgetting my questions. I'm just gonna move on until it comes back. Life insurance isn't. This is the questions you had, I think. Life insurance isn't mandatory, but still makes up majority of the insurance market. Why?
So the reason is people who have money and have things to lose are all hands in when it comes to these types of things. So if you look at somebody who has $5 million home, yacht, boat, car, all sorts, there's 9 times out of 10, no way their kids are going to be able to afford that in the worst case scenario. So they would be silly to not have insurance. So the reason it takes up majority of the market is because the people with money have lots of this stuff. To the point where they've trumped the mandatory car insurance and premiums, the mandatory home insurance premiums, boat premiums. There's a lot of money in life insurance because the people who have a lot have jumped in. You know?
See, the rich always know how to keep the money.
Exactly.
And I feel like we as a community, as a community, one, a lot of us don't have money. We don't have access to the information, and how to manage it efficiently. So yeah, the rich stay rich for a reason.
A reason, 1,000%. And I mean, not to put anybody down, because especially locally, you know, the rich in Bermuda are very diversified amongst the community.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's not a, you know, people would say it's a white thing, or it's very much not a white or a black thing. It's very diversified.
Some people are rich and you just don't know
and you
it.
just don't know it. But the ones who have money come to me, and I don't have to chase them. They say, hey, let's see what you got. This is what I've got going on. Let's make it happen. And there's really no questions asked.
Right.
You know, I feel like my struggle, and it's not a struggle because I'm very passionate about doing it, is getting the ones who are not that financially literate to grasp the concept of it. So I'm very much on a mission to get this information out there to the right people so that they can make the right decisions, whether that's today, tomorrow, or next year. At least you know what you need to do to get ahead.
As long as you got information is the best thing you can get in life.
Yeah.
Learning and information. So what would you say to, I would say like a 18-year-old, fresh out of high school, got the first job? Would you recommend life insurance to them?
I would recommend that they look into it. 1,000%. If you're an 18-year-old with a child, then yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you're not, it may not be, I would say, urgent, but the information you need to have.
Okay.
You know, if you was able to start it that early, then you're winning.
Right.
You know. Also, we have child plans. So if you have a child, you could insure your child from birth on a policy that gets finished paying off in 20 years.
Okay.
So that by the time they're 20, they have access to a free whole of life policy because you've paid it off. And they have permanent cover for life, which builds cash values that they can borrow, even though they haven't paid a red cent. And they have a benefit at retirement or at death that they haven't paid a cent towards. So you're basically setting up their kids or whoever that they leave behind. You know, it's so many ways to look at it, and it's such an amazing thing.
So what would be some questions an 18-year-old should be asking someone that sells life insurance? Like what information? Yeah, what questions should they be asking to get the information that they need?
Just take a look at what's available.
Okay.
You know, there's whole of life and term. There's two things that we will look at, and the amounts you do are based on what you can afford and based on what you have going on. I don't expect an 18 to 20-year-old to have mortgage payments yet, but depending on who they are, they may plan to buy property.
Right.
So if they know beforehand, that helps with their planning to buy property.
Okay.
You know, but with the whole of life thing, I would say you could start whenever. The sooner the better. Also because of the cash value feature, if you're interested in the investment feature, the earlier you start, the better. Because the longer you have, the better for compounding.
You said you would definitely recommend it for like an 18-year-old with a child. What's the reasoning for that?
Because the earlier you start, the better.
Okay.
Whether you get it for you or the child or both, the earlier you start, the better.
Okay.
If you got a child, you're gonna need it at some point.
Right.
And at the end of the day, whether you're 18 or 20, if you have a child, you are responsible financially.
Yeah.
If something happened to you at 18 or 20, you don't want your grandparents to be responsible financially. So it'd be good to take care of that as soon as you can.
Yeah, that's like, I like that you said that, because I actually have a friend. He had, I forget how old he was, but he was young when he had his child. But we was talking, say a few months ago. It's like, yeah, man, I got my life insurance. I ain't got to worry about my son for nothing. Like, if anything happens to me, I know that he's covered. And that was like, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. Like, you know, you're a young black man. I was not expecting, yeah, man, I got my life insurance. I'm worth this much.
Yeah.
My car's straight. Like everything that I own is covered basically. And anything that my son wants to do, you know, is sorted.
Yeah.
So,
I think people are waking up. Like I said, there's a lot of content online. There's a lot of things online. You know, people are taking this whole progression mindset, and they're taking it by storm. So I
Right.
think it's a winning battle. We're slowly getting there in terms of uplifting the community and informing them, and it's just a matter of time, you know.
Okay. So what would you say the what's the word? What would you say other people that sell insurance look like? Do they look like you? Are they white men, white women? Or
No,
is it more diverse now?
it's definitely diverse.
Okay.
You know, my colleagues are young Bermudians.
Okay.
My old colleagues were Bermudian. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
one person from Barbados, one from the UK. But there's really no face on
Okay.
on
Because I
making this
think
happen.
also that might be the reason why as well, that people don't want the like, not people, but why a lot of people didn't get the information, because if they were interested, they went and looked, and it's like no one in this building looks like
Looks-
me.
Yeah,
And that
absolutely
makes
right.
and that makes a big difference as to why or where someone's gonna spend the money.
Yeah, absolutely right.
So I feel like the more diversity, I mean, like you said, it is getting better. So I think as the diversity continues, it probably get better
A
within the
1,000%.
community.
Yes, and it's funny you say that because I've had a client say that to me.
Hmm.
They said to me, those exact words. He came to me, was like, look, man, I spoke to somebody a year ago. I knew I needed it. I wasn't feeling the vibe. I got it because I had to. You know, the policy lapsed because I wasn't connected. But it's nice to be able to talk to somebody that looks like me and that can connect with me
Yeah.
and all sorts. So you're absolutely right. That is a factor. And the thing about life insurance, it's a lifetime commitment. So you do want to feel the person out and feel like you're actually speaking to somebody who cares for one.
Right,
And it's
right.
not just trying to get your money
Yeah.
and things like that.
That's definitely definitely gonna make the change.
Yeah.
What is okay? We spoke about that one. The question was, what is the difference between term insurance and whole insurance? But we pretty
Yeah.
much spoke about that one. All right, so that's all those questions. Let's see. Do I have a question? How do you make money in insurance? Like, you just got a salary, or is
Me?
it, yeah?
Yeah, I got a salary. And depending on the size of the insurance, you know, I could be compensated
Okay.
really well.
Okay.
But if I'm being honest with you, I have zero focus on the money that I make from someone's insurance policy. Like a lot of the things that I do is very, very solely driven from my need or want to make a difference, especially in the community. Like I have this need to have a positive impact, whether that's through my music, you know, through people helping people with their financial planning, even just through my day-to-day activities in life. You know, a lot of people
Right.
do come to me for advice outside of finance, outside of music, relationship stuff. Like I've always been that person to want to make a positive impact, almost like a people pleaser type thing, but not in a sense of cutting myself short. It's
Right.
more like an empowerment and uplifting type of thing. So for me at the moment, I have been getting great value mentally from doing this thing because I'm looking at the people who I'm setting up and I'm looking at years down the line and I'm seeing a much better Bermuda as a result of people getting these things together, especially, you know, sooner rather than later.
Right. Right. All right. Anything else you want to say about insurance that we haven't spoken about?
Honestly, the only thing that I would say, you know, is see for yourself. Come see for yourself. Come have the conversation with me. And, you know, we'll sit down for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, really identify what it is your needs are and find the best solution for what you have going on. So you can't make a decision without information. You can't make a clear decision without the right information.
Yeah.
So figure it out for yourself.
All right. So let's talk about financial planning, money management type stuff.
Yeah.
What is your take on financial planning? Stuff
My
like that?
take on financial planning, it is necessary. Very much necessary. You cannot do anything right or to the best of your ability without having a plan. You know, I know for myself, I've never really been a big saver of money. You know, I tend to myself kind of wing it in a sense where I would just spend less than I make. You know, do less than that's what's required. You know, I don't really
Right.
go out much. I don't spend a whole lot of money on alcohol and things like that. I just spend less than I make. Not a big saver because I do feel like saving is probably the second worst thing you can do with money. outside of buying material.
Mm-hmm.
So I got into crypto,
Okay.
and I feel like that would be my aggressive investment portfolio for as long as I could, foresee.
Right.
But it's definitely something that people need to take serious. Treat it like your favorite video game. You know what I mean? Is get to a, play the game, get to a, accomplishment. Once you reach a goal, pat on your back, go to the next accomplishment.
Exactly.
Treat it like something that you could, make it fulfilling for yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I like that you said saving is like the second worst thing that you can do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think, oh, I save, but yeah, it's nice to save, but how is your money working for you?
Exactly.
And that's where the cutoff is. I think a lot of people think, yeah, okay, I saved 50K in a year.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, great, that's awesome, but now it's just deteriorating. It's not worth anything.
Exactly.
It's worth 50K right now, but in a year's time, that 50K most likely will be approximately 40K.
Yeah.
So,
Inflation will beat you every time.
So it's like, how can you make that money worth more than what it is?
Yeah.
And I think that's really where the cutoff is, because a lot of people don't think of investing. I think on the last one I was talking to someone, it was like investing isn't always buying stocks or something like that.
No, it's not.
It's not. It's say if you say you do music, investing in equipment to make more music that will make you more money. That's an investment.
Yeah.
So it's just like a lot. Like I feel like that may also be a point that needs to get across, is that investing isn't always stocks and bonds.
Yeah, it's not.
Or crypto or anything. It's not always, let's say, it's not always investing your money into something that already has money in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you can invest your money into material things that make you more money.
That appreciate in value.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
1,000%.
and that's where assets versus liabilities come in, because a lot of people think, say for example, a car is an asset or a house is an asset.
Yep.
It's not always
not.
an asset.
It's
A house
actually
isn't-
never an asset.
A
until
house
it's
is only
paid.
exactly.
A
It's
car
only,
is never gonna be an asset.
yeah, it
'cause-
depreciates once
yeah,
you drive off.
Yeah.
What was I think I was watching a show. This guy, I can't remember. This guy bought a car for someone, right? And then the person didn't want the car. He's like, "Well, I'm ready to lose some money, and you might as well just keep it."
Keep it,
I'm
yeah.
just like, man, like
That's the truth.
I like that they said that, because in life, people don't tell you how, like especially a bike or a car, just loses value once it leaves the shop. Like no one tells you that.
Yeah.
Like.
People just see the luxury, oh man, that looks nice. I want to be riding around in this, and then you're lost out on a lot.
Exactly.
Especially with the house thing. There are still people to this day that believe the minute they sign off on their mortgage, they won.
It's an asset.
That it's an asset, and it's not till you pay it off.
And that's where the disconnected information comes in as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people's like, oh, buy a house. I'm like, I want to, but right now with Bermuda, nah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'd rather keep my money to myself.
Yeah.
Because for me, as a single woman, and with my job, I can't afford a house in Bermuda.
Yeah.
And I make decent money, and it's
Yeah.
just like that's sad.
Yeah.
That Bermudians that have stable jobs can't afford houses in their own country.
It's crazy.
Like that. And then the government wonders why no one wants to live in Bermuda.
Yeah, it's
like
crazy.
make it affordable for your people,
Yeah.
and then maybe we'll stay.
And that's why my hat goes off to the older generation. There's a lot of people in the older generation who have properties that are paid off, who used to live on next to nothing
But
wages,
see,
and
yes, I agree.
and they still found a way to make it happen.
Yes.
And you know what I mean. And now, more often than not, a lot of these people's houses are paid off, and their kids are now living in houses where they don't have to pay rent, and
Exactly.
now they're starting to see the fruit of the investment. But now I just think we're not financially literate. We're also not hungry enough when it comes to what matters in life and our priorities. There's a lot of, I would say, there's a lot of negativity around. There's a lot of people who are doing things or thinking about things that they shouldn't be.
Right.
Priorities are out of whack right now,
Most
and
definitely.
that's a big part to play in it as well.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that we're making progress slowly, and we can get
Most
back
definitely.
to that discipline.
And I feel like what you said about the houses, that also comes down to the value of money and the inflation.
Yeah.
Because like this house and the house next door, my grandpa bought for like 10 grand.
Yeah. But what was their wage like then?
I don't know. But I mean, like, my point is, like,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
inflation is what's crazy, because 10 grand 40, 50 years ago, and now it's worth, what, 400,000?
Yeah.
Like, that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it is still, like, when you think about it, it is still the same amount of money, because what they were making is still next to nothing versus the value of the house.
Yeah.
But definitely having that asset in the family is most definitely worth it.
Yeah, 1,000%.
So buying houses, yes, if you can, but it's only worth it once it's paid off.
Once it's paid off.
If it's not paid off, it's not yours.
Yeah.
It's also not yours.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, like, I know a few people that own houses. They're like, yeah, I just live in the bank's house, and that's and it's accurate.
That's the truth.
It's
That's the truth.
accuracy.
But no, yeah, this is the bank's house, until I finish paying the bank.
Exactly.
But, nah, it's the truth. And that's also why having the succession plan is important, especially the life insurance, because in the rest, you wouldn't want all your hard work to go down the drain.
Exactly. Let's see. What's another question about money? You have any questions for me while I think?
No, I don't. I don't have much questions. But what I will say is, I do like what you're doing. Especially bringing people together to have these kinds of conversations.
Right.
Because it's things like this that are gonna get the information out there.
Exactly.
People seeing different kinds of people, and then just coming and talking and giving their spiel on how they feel things work is really just what's gonna build that stigma, build that vibe in the community to get people to the right information. And also get people familiar with what's required, to move forward.
Yeah.
So hats off to you for
and that's exactly why I started it, because in 2020 everyone was looking at how can I make money, basically. So, and I was looking about how, like, different businesses I could potentially start, blah blah blah. And I noticed something. That's like, no one that I'm listening to right now looks like me. And that was an issue for me. I'm just like, there has to be people out there that look like me that have this information. And coming from someone that looks like me, I'm going to listen to it a lot harder than I am to someone that doesn't look like me.
Yeah.
Although I think also we fall into this thing of, oh, well, the white man's information is better. That's not always true, because these guys, they're more scammers than black people. Let's just call it.
Yeah, the information's the same regardless.
It is, yeah. So it's like, and that's exactly why I created this.
Yeah.
So at first it was just an Instagram page. I'm like, well, how can I really get the information? I was like, okay, let's sit down and start talking to people. Because at the end of the day, I'm doing it for me first, like, because I like to learn. Because, like I said, education is wealth. So I'm learning, and then whoever's listening is learning too
as well.
So it's like, it's a win-win,
Yeah.
So and that's exactly why I started it.
Yeah, it's a frequency thing as well. I think in the community, especially when you look at, the people who look like us tend to be on our frequency. So they're more inclined to connect when it comes to what we're talking about. But once you get to that level, you realize that the frequency is the same amongst, doesn't matter whose color it is.
Right.
This is an energy thing that we're talking about. When you get to that level, it doesn't actually matter what the face looks like. And that's where I think, I've learned a lot, especially in the community, because talking to someone who I would say is at a lower frequency, it's just a way of connecting to them the same information. The words that you use, how you explain it, and the examples that you use. Whereas if you speak to someone who's a little bit more established, it's a little bit simpler discussing because they're familiar already. So I would say it's just a thing, and it's a learning curve, especially amongst our community. But we'll get there. I think we will get there.
I think we're making very good improvements so
1,000%.
Because, like, at first, like, I tried to start this podcast in 2020, and I couldn't get no one to talk to. So for me, that was just like, man, like, what am I gonna do now? So I had to just put it on the back burner, and then it came back to me. It's like, no, you gotta do this. You gotta do this. And I think I was talking to someone, and then they was like, it wasn't you, it's them. Like, they weren't in the right place to be here, type thing. So I think it's definitely grown, because like I said, I tried to start this 2 years ago, but I couldn't get nobody. But now it's like people coming out the woodwork. Like, yes, I want to I want to talk about this. I want to help you with this. I
Mm-hmm.
want to share this information with other people because
Mm-hmm.
it took me a while to find it, like, you
Yeah.
know? So it's timing is definitely it as well, but we're definitely moving in the right direction.
100%. And
Yeah.
it's only gonna get better.
Yeah.
It's only gonna get better.
Most definitely. Um, your music. What type of music you make?
Me? That's a very good question. I make all sorts of music. You know, I rap. I could sing a little bit. I used to be a much better singer than I am now. You know, my voice is a little matured. But yeah, I'm a music producer, songwriter. I write my own songs. I make my own beats. I can engineer as well. I try not to do it all because when I was doing it all, like a lot of my music, I would say, suffered in terms of quality and production.
Okay.
So I tried to focus on some of the more important things now and leave other stuff up to other people.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been doing it for well over 10 years. I got into rapping when I was in middle school. The teachers found out that I could sing and rap, and actually primary school.
Okay.
Teachers found out that I could sing and rap, and they had me and one of my school friends do this song that Nas used to sing. I know I can, I know I be what I wanna be. So yeah, I did that. Found a love for rapping. Went to middle school. Teachers found out I could sing and rap. Did the Christmas play with another school colleague singing Joy to the World. Got a standing ovation because I used to be a really good singer until my voice changed. And then yeah, I went England, where the whole stigma around music is way different to Bermuda. You know, in England, because everything is so close to home, everybody feels like they can make it rapping.
Right.
So you got people in school, like see how in Bermuda lunchtimes we be playing football and whatnot. You have people in school lunchtimes that are writing music, listening to songs, and you know things like that. So I met with this guy Brendan, who's still my friend to this day, one of my best friends in England, who I used to go over his house. We used to write songs and do all sorts. I've got another friend, Michael Norris, who's one of my better friends, who went on the radio, and it inspired me to go get on the radio and sing and just do things that I never would have been able to do in Bermuda at the time.
Right.
So I've developed a love for music out there, and I thought I could actually do something in music or become somebody just from being around these people.
Right.
And as a result, you know, this is where I am today. You know, I started making beats because at the time beats were too expensive. Couldn't purchase beats. I always wanted original stuff because I had big ambitions. So I taught myself how to make beats, and then it got to the point where now I've got the beats and the track. I need to record it. Studio is too expensive. Okay, cool. Let me learn how to engineer my own voice and make my own songs. And that's how it's happened. And I've always got into the right places at the right time when it comes to it, because I believe if you really, really want something, you're going to align with it. You know, this is all energy. Like if you're in the frequency of something sincerely, you're going to align with it. You know, so I met up with these Portuguese guys who were actively doing music, and they showed me how to engineer my voice. So I started to do that, and then practice makes perfect. Just got better at it. So as a result, I could do everything that I need to do for music myself. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because I can do my songs from scratch, write my own music, write my own beats, go record myself, and do a song by myself with no input of anybody else. So I earn everything.
Right.
You know, and that's so important when it comes to music. Because
Especially right now.
Yeah, definitely.
'Cause that's why everyone's fighting for is the ownership of
yes.
the old stuff and
Exactly,
stuff like that.
exactly. So as a result, I'm happy for it. You know, as I got older, though, I feel like maybe I wouldn't say my time's up, but knowing what I know, if I do decide to stop being an artist, I could jump into a studio, get equipment, and run a studio.
Right.
Start my own label, bring in the next generation of musicians, and show them the way. You know, from me jumping in the alley first and, you know, getting bit by all the rats and snakes, and now I got to help you through the alley without getting bit.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So, what would you say is the favorite song that you've made?
My favorite song that I've made so far hasn't come out yet. It hasn't come out yet. So
when is it coming out?
I don't know. I may be shooting the video this Christmas, depending on what my video guy can do. So I'm going to England this Christmas to shoot 1 or 2 videos again.
Okay.
And maybe it would be one of the videos that I shoot. But my favorite song that I have released so far is probably my song Wonder.
Wonder.
Yeah, so I've got a song Wonder with an artist locally named Wonder.
Okay.
Crazy how that come about. So Wonder, she's a female artist and she's local. First time I ever heard her rap, I was a fan. It was a song called Drizzle. I was in England and I heard about the song Drizzle on SoundCloud. And I was playing that song like she was a famous artist. Like, you know, it was an amazing song. So from then, I knew that the minute we was going to be able to do a song, we was going to make it happen. So through the pandemic, I had made this beat. And I was thinking, bang, bang, writing this song. Sometimes I wonder, and I'm saying, man, I wonder if Wonder would jump on this track because it makes sense.
Right.
And she took it by the like straight away. She was like, "Oh yeah, this beat, everything about it, we're gonna make it happen," and we did.
Okay.
You know, one of my favorite videos that I've made, and one of my favorite tracks that I've made. You could see it on YouTube, Apple Music, and all sorts.
And what's your stage name?
The Master Key.
The Master Key.
Yeah. Well, Master Key,
Master Key
is the name that I use for my artistry.
Let me see. See, I noticed that there are a lot of artists in Bermuda, and they're just very unknown.
Yeah.
That's what I'm learning.
Yeah. I think it's hard to market in Bermuda. You know, nobody's really looking for Bermuda artists. You just heard about it. If you heard about it, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you keep it moving. Sometimes if you like it, you just like it and still keep it moving.
Right.
Because it's local. But yeah. One thing Bermudians, I think, and myself included, have to work on is the promotion of their music. You know, getting things out there and, you know, getting it heard.
Okay. What other people, like local artists, have you collaborated with?
A few. So some that I have products completed with, and some that are not yet completed.
Okay, let's talk about the ones that are out.
So I have Wonder. I have Q the Architect, he lives locally now. He's a local artist. I have Pudgy, who's from my area growing up. I actually have a song with Mike the Man that's not come out yet. I have a song with Bricks that's unfinished. Cammy Cam, I have a song with. Mizzle, Jammin' J Mizzle, I have a song with. I really don't want to miss nobody out. Map Mike, I have a song with and a video with. What else? I've got a song with a very good friend of mine, Dojai, calls himself Smoke Gang.
I heard the name. It's from St. George's?
It's from St. David's.
So, yeah.
Yes, from
he
St.
makes beats or something like that, right? Is that him? No?
He may make beats, but it's not actually known for the production side of things. He's been in England for a long time.
Okay.
So yeah, I got a song with him. That video is probably gonna drop maybe before Christmas or January. That we shot in England when I was over there last year.
Okay.
Who else? That's a good majority of everything. I hope I ain't missed somebody out. I'm sorry, I love you, but yeah.
So when would you say you started putting your music out there for the public?
A long time ago. I started putting my music out as soon as I started recording it. A long time ago.
And this is like on SoundCloud?
This was SoundCloud way back in the day. I had this friend Jamal who was recording at the time as well in England, and we did this Valentine's EP. And man, if I was to listen to that now, I'd probably be disgusted. But at the time, it was a hit. You know, people, when I came back from Bermuda, people was like singing my little hooks and stuff like that. But back then, it wasn't as serious. Right. I would say I started releasing it seriously when I got back to Bermuda in 2019. I did my first video, Blues Clues. And that's when I really much said, you know what, let's see what we could do with this type of stuff.
So you only moved back to Bermuda in 2019?
2019, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. All right. What else did you mention? You mentioned your music, insurance. No. I think is that everything that we covered?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to say that we haven't touched on?
No, I don't really have much else to say, but just just as a motivational thing to everybody who's really trying to make something out of life, you have to be serious about it. You have to be clear. You have to be direct and intentional. Nothing really happens by chance. You got to make things happen.
Direct intentional habits by
Goodness, Siri. Okay, so I'm just gonna start closing up. I ask these questions to everyone at the end of each episode. What advice would you give to 18-year-old you about what you're doing now?
The advice that I would give to 18-year-old me was to, don't procrastinate.
That's a good one.
Do not procrastinate. Take every day and make the most out of every day. Do what you got to do and work on yourself and what you're trying to do every single day.
I can agree with that. Because, like, with my clothing brand, I've been procrastinating for the past 2 years.
It happens.
And I'm finally got stuff,
It happens.
It took me 2 years to launch, but it's okay. Everything
Yeah.
happens in its time, So, yeah, definitely don't procrastinate. Would you consider yourself an entrepreneur? No?
Yes,
Yeah.
1,000%.
Okay.
My music does make money. It's not the craziest profit in the world, but the streams at least allow me to release for free.
Right.
If I got a project that I want to release, the money on my streaming platform allows me to release my music. So
Okay.
for me, that's entrepreneurship.
All right.
Also with the life insurance and investment side of things, like, I love it. I make my own schedule. I take my lunch when I want. I do what I want the way I wanted to do it. So in that sense, I almost feel like I am my own boss
Right.
when it comes to what it is that I'm doing.
Okay.
So yeah, I would definitely say so.
All right. So you mentioned the streaming. I forgot to ask you this. How do you put your music out there? Like, how do you get onto streaming platforms?
I use a platform called TuneCore,
Okay.
and it distributes to all stores. So you pay a premium, distributes out to all stores, and that's how you got it on there.
Okay. So it's basically the same thing for the podcasting. Because it's like a hosting site. And you
Right.
put it on that
Exactly.
and it goes.
And it
everywhere.
collects all your streaming and revenues to the point where if I upload a video to YouTube after I've got it on the streaming platforms, it would automatically claim the rights for the YouTube views
Okay.
and all sorts and things like
And
that.
that's the copyright and
Yeah.
all of that too. Okay.
Stuff like that.
Nice. What advice would you give to our listeners on entrepreneurship?
The advice that I would give is listen to information. Be teachable, be coachable. Everyone has something to learn from everybody, regardless of how old you are, how experienced you are, what you've been through, what you do. Everyone has something to learn from everyone. So be open, receive information, and use the buffet technique. When you go to a buffet, there's a million things that you can eat and take in, but you're going to pick what you want for yourself and what aligns with, what you need for yourself. So, be coachable, be teachable, and receive information.
All right. What's next for you?
Next, honestly, so for 2023, I very much would love to get my hair done through work. Work has been pretty good to me financially. I have kind of took a little backseat on music, but I love it so much, I'm not going to stop. So next year, I plan to release at least 4 music videos throughout the course of the year. I don't really have much expectation for it. Like, I just love it, and I'm just going to continue to do it and see where it goes. But I'm more focused on work right now for 2023.
And with those videos, those are songs that are already released?
Already done.
Okay.
Well, no, not released yet.
They're just
These
done.
are all new stuff. They're
Okay.
just done.
So when you release, do you release the song first and then the video, or you release at the
Try to
same
do
time?
it all together.
Okay.
I try to do it all together, but more often than not, it'd be the song first. The video comes when it comes.
Okay. What would you say to your future self 5 years from now?
My future self 5 years from now, I would like to say right now, thank you for believing in you, and thank you for putting the work in. Thank you for getting yourself where it is you want it to be when you spoke about this 5 years ago. That's what I would say to my future self in 5 years.
Okay. And lastly, where do you see yourself in your business in 5 years? Well, and your music in 5 years' time.
In my music in 5 years' time, I would like to have a studio opened. You know, in the next 5 years or at the 5th year, I would like to have a studio opened where I'm helping young artists, local artists, get ahead with music. So that's where I want to go when I'm done with becoming an artist.
And you see that being in Bermuda or somewhere else?
It's a good question. I would like for it to be in Bermuda, but it very well could be in England as well.
Okay.
But I also, even if I was in England, I would not limit myself to British artists. I would love to be an outlet for locals to, get some overseas exposure or be that
Right.
link person for Bermuda to a bigger market.
Okay. Any questions? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, that's it. Again, thank you for having me. Keep doing what you're doing. I've seen a few of the podcasts, and it's very, very positive and
Thank you.
progressive. And Bermuda does need things like that, like this. And Bermuda needs people to tune in to things like this if they're really, really serious about
Most
getting
definitely.
ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate your words of encouragement. And thanks for donating some of your time.
No worries at all.
All right.
All right.